Slenderman lore explained. The Slender Man is a widely popular internet urban legend, horror icon, and very commonly the titular main antagonist of many stories involving him. Slender Man is a humanoid creature with a vast array of supernatural powers and abilities. His most common hobbies include kidnapping children and brainwashing innocent people into becoming his proxies. Due to his popularity, Slender Man has been seen as one of the most famous urban legends and horror icons of the internet. The Slender Man is a supernatural creature with nebulously defined characteristics and abilities. In almost every description of the Slender Man, his attributes will vary, sometimes greatly. However, his basic appearance and traits are relatively consistent across different accounts. He generally appears, in modern times, as a tall, humanoid creature in a black or gray suit, red or black tie, and white shirt. His face is totally white, completely devoid of facial features. He has no hair, and generally has normal-looking bare hands, albeit with fingers longer and bonier than a typical human. Slender Man has been depicted in imagery and literature at anywhere between 6 and 10 feet tall, depending on the situation, though in a video he is usually only around 6, 7 feet tall. He behaves in what might be seen as a passive-aggressive manner, often stalking targets for years at a time before ever attacking. It's understood that he tends to torture his targets mentally over long periods of time, using fear and paranoia to drive them to insanity. No one has ever satisfactorily explained the reasoning behind his tactics or the way he chooses his victims, and his purposes and/or motivations have yet to be fully ascertained. He is rarely, if ever, portrayed in a good or benign light, and is generally understood to be a malevolent force. There are two main descriptions of the Slender Man's behavior. Originally, he was portrayed as being not only malevolent, but also extremely dangerous. He would stalk its targets, impale them on trees, and remove their organs. In comparison, contemporary depictions have turned him into a more passive-aggressive creature. Instead of an active chase, he is more likely to let his prey devolve slowly into madness until they are unable to cope with their situation, often watching from afar as this takes place. If angered, it will charge the aggressor and vanish with its victim to an unknown location. Modern interpretations also show that the Slender Man interacts oddly with electronic equipment and causes massive interference with audio and visual recording devices. Sometimes an individual can determine if the Slender Man is near simply by how certain electronics act. Radios, televisions, and cameras are especially susceptible. How powerful this effect seems to vary, which could be due either to the Slender Man's state of aggression or other outside factors that he may or may not be controlling. In almost every contemporary description, the Slender Man is associated with stalking, often for extremely long periods. It is not unusual for a person to be trailed by the Slender Man for hours, days, months, or even years. However, he usually appears when least expected and where the victim is alone and the most comfortable: home, school, work, outdoors, along trusted roads, etc. And oftentimes he also strikes when the target's defenses are down, sometimes to the point where they simply have no will to fight him off any further, making for an easier kill. One of the most common features of the Slender Man, generally accepted among both fans of the mythos and victims, is that he will target those who reach a certain level of understanding about it. These accounts vary from person to person, but it seems that being a victim of the Slender Man is almost contagious or mimetic. One can become his prey by encountering someone he is already chasing. Basic research and even collecting images don't appear to incur its notice. Someone has to delve into the mythos in an almost obsessive way. Originally, he killed its victims by impaling them on the branches of very tall trees and allowing them to bleed to death. The victims' organs would be individually removed and placed in plastic bags, which were then returned to their original positions in the body. The victims' corpses did not show any sign of a struggle. However, as time has gone on, it would seem that Slender Man has abandoned this practice. New accounts of the Slender Man's powers, abilities, and attacks show some drastic differences from his original behaviors. Gone is the original desire to impale targets on trees, his overtly aggressive attitude, and the tendency to target mainly children. He now appears to target people who encountered him as children, often stalking them for years. It does so in such a way that the target is often unaware of his presence for months, years, or even decades. The Slenderman's stalking behavior is remarkably passive. He torments an individual by repeatedly appearing and vanishing, usually without harming the victim in any physical way. He invades the mental safety of his prey by appearing inside their house, outside their home, on roads they travel, at their place of work when they are alone or ensuring only the victim can see him, or while the target is sleeping. The sporadic and unexpected nature of these manifestations causes fear and unease, which eventually can grow into incredible paranoia. This period of stalking can last anywhere from several minutes to decades. The longer Slenderman stalks a victim, the greater strain on their mental health, which may be one of his goals. Prolonged stalking causes what has been named slender sickness, which is both a mental and physical ailment and can cause paranoia, nightmares, coughing and difficulty swallowing, convulsions, exhaustion, vomiting, hallucinations, etc. The physical symptoms naturally affect an individual's mental health, but it is believed that Slenderman exerts a direct effect on the mind as well. However, this phenomenon and Slenderman's control over it have yet to be fully explained.